The morning sun filtered softly through the blinds, casting narrow stripes across the hardwood floor of my apartment. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with the faint scent of my roommate's laundry, a mundane yet comforting reality. My name is Alex, and to anyone who met me at the office or on the street, I was just another guy juggling deadlines and bills. But there was a side to me that no one truly knew, an intimate, secret part of my life that pulsed quietly beneath the surface. I had always been fascinated by transformation. Not the metaphorical kind that comes with career growth or personal development, but the tangible, visceral change that came from makeup, clothing, and the delicate art of crossdressing. It wasn't a mere hobby, it was a revelation. The first time I had slipped into a skirt and felt the soft fabric brush against my skin, I had discovered a side of myself that was thrilling, terrifying, and, most of all, undeniably me. But I never shared this side with anyone. It was mine alone, a hidden sanctuary where I could explore the person I wanted to be without fear or judgment. My job as a graphic designer meant I spent most of my time behind a computer screen, lost in colors and layouts, creating worlds that existed only in pixels. It was perfect for my secret life. I could disappear into my projects, and no one would notice the subtle changes in my appearance when I finally indulged in my private experiments. And then there was Emma, my girlfriend of 2 years, who was blissfully unaware of my double life. Emma was the kind of person who lit up every room she entered, her laughter infectious, her energy magnetic. I adored her, but there was always an undercurrent of fear whenever I imagined her discovering my secret. Would she understand? Would she laugh it off? Or would she see me differently, as if the carefully constructed world I had built for her eyes alone had shattered in an instant? That morning, I found myself staring at the outfit I had carefully laid out the night before. It was subtle, yet undeniably feminine. A soft pastel blouse, a flowing skirt that hugged my hips just right, and a pair of heels that I knew would challenge my balance but exhilarate my senses. My heart thudded as I traced the fabric with my fingers. Today was supposed to be ordinary, a quiet Sunday at home, but I could feel the tension building in my chest. Something in the air whispered change. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. I sipped my coffee, trying to steady my racing thoughts. I had rehearsed this in my mind countless times, the way I would approach the mirror, the angle of the blush on my cheeks, the careful curling of my hair. Each movement was deliberate, a dance I had perfected over months of solitary practice. Yet, the reality of it always made my pulse spike. Emma was supposed to be out for the weekend, visiting her family. That meant I had the apartment to myself, a rare gift of uninterrupted freedom. I felt a mixture of liberation and apprehension. The thrill of solitude was addictive, but it came with a shadow of fear, the fear that one wrong move, one unexpected knock at the door, could unravel everything. I glanced at the clock and noticed how quickly time seemed to be slipping away. My hands trembled slightly as I set down my coffee and began the ritual I had come to cherish. First came the foundation, a subtle veil that smoothed the contours of my face, followed by the careful sweep of eyeshadow that made my brown eyes appear larger, more delicate. Each brushstroke was a whisper of who I could be, a promise of transformation. Then came the blouse, soft against my skin, followed by the skirt that swayed lightly with each movement. I perched on the edge of the sofa, sliding into the heels, wincing slightly as my ankles protested the unfamiliar height. But the discomfort was fleeting. It was replaced almost immediately by a surge of confidence, a fluttering sense of liberation that coursed through my body. Standing before the full-length mirror, I barely recognized myself. The reflection staring back was delicate, refined, and captivating. My lips glistened faintly with a touch of gloss, my hair tumbled perfectly over my shoulders, and my posture felt different, more poised, more alive. I allowed myself a small smile, a private acknowledgement of the duality I carried within me. Here I was, Alex, but also her, the version of myself that existed only in stolen moments and whispered fantasies. Yet, amidst the excitement, a knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. The very act of existing in this dual state made me vulnerable. What if Emma came home early? What if a neighbor or delivery person arrived unexpectedly? The thrill of my secret was always paired with the dread of exposure, a delicate balance between desire and fear. I sat down again, this time letting myself relax into the persona I had cultivated. The skirt brushed my thighs, the heels elevated me, and the world outside my apartment seemed to fade away. For a brief, precious moment, I existed fully in the person I wanted to be, untethered from expectation or judgment. And then, the sudden, unexpected sound of keys jingling at the front door.
My heart leapt into my throat. Emma? No, it couldn't be. Not yet.
I held my breath, every sense heightened, ready to either confront the intrusion or vanish into the shadows of my apartment. The doorknob turned slowly, deliberately, and my pulse raced faster than ever. My carefully crafted world, my secret sanctuary, teetered on the edge of exposure. The first step of a weekend that had begun with quiet anticipation was about to spiral into a series of events I could never have imagined, a journey that would challenge my identity, test my fears, and rewrite the boundaries of my reality. I straightened my posture one last time, took a shaky breath, and whispered to myself, "No turning back now." The jingling of keys had barely ceased before I heard the soft click of the front door opening. My body tensed instinctively, every muscle coiled like a spring. I wasn't expecting anyone. Emma was still at her parents' house, at least according to the plan I had carefully memoized. And yet, the sound of footsteps approaching my living room ignited a surge of panic. I pressed myself against the side of the sofa, my heels precariously balancing my weight, and tried to slow my racing heart. The air felt thicker, charged with a tension that made every breath feel heavy. My mind whirled with possibilities. A neighbor dropping off a package? Emma returning early? Or, worst of all, someone who might accidentally discover my secret world. The footsteps stopped outside the door, deliberate, almost teasing, as if they knew the chaos they were about to unleash. I held my breath, trying to steady my trembling hands. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, and I saw her again, me, but not exactly me. The person I had carefully created, delicate and poised, ready to step into the world, but vulnerable to exposure. I reminded myself of the thrill that had always accompanied these transformations. Each time I dressed, each time I applied makeup, it was a rush, a mixture of fear and excitement that left my heart pounding and my senses sharpened. It was addictive, intoxicating, and dangerous. Today, however, the danger felt closer, more immediate. I had started this morning with a sense of anticipation, eager to immerse myself in the feminine persona I had cultivated over months of practice. There was the silky blouse, the skirt that swayed around my legs, the heels that forced me to adopt a posture that was more graceful, more deliberate. The subtle touches of makeup had completed the illusion. Eyeliner that made my eyes appear larger, blush that gave my cheeks a gentle warmth, and a faint gloss that made my lips glisten in the morning light. I had felt powerful in that mirror, confident and alive. And now, the outside world intruded. The doorknob rattled slightly, and a voice called out, muffled but unmistakable. "Alex? Are you here?" It wasn't Emma. It was a neighbor, a woman from down the hall, come to ask about a package she thought I might have received. Relief washed over me, but it was mingled with a lingering anxiety. I wasn't dressed for company, even if she wasn't expecting anything scandalous. My heels clicked lightly on the floor as I moved toward the door, trying to maintain the balance between elegance and discretion.
"Hey."
"Yeah, just a sec," I called back, my voice higher than usual, laced with a subtle pitch I had unconsciously developed over months of practice. The neighbor appeared in the doorway, smiling politely, her eyes scanning the room. I could feel my pulse quicken under her gaze, my secret persona exposed to even the smallest degree. We exchanged a few words about the package, a mundane conversation, yet every sentence felt like a performance. My body was tense, my heels shifting slightly as I struggled to maintain poise. The neighbor lingered a moment longer than necessary, and I sensed her curiosity growing. I imagined her thinking, who is this person, standing there so gracefully, so different?
The thought made a shiver run down my spine.
After she left, the apartment felt impossibly quiet again, the kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes you hyper-aware of every sound. I sank back onto the sofa, feeling the soft brush of fabric against my thighs, the unfamiliar weight of my elevated heels anchoring me to the floor. I was alone, but the tension lingered. The thrill of secrecy pulsed through me, blending with the fear of discovery. I turned back to the mirror, running my hands lightly over my outfit, adjusting a stray lock of hair, straightening the skirt that had ridden up slightly as I moved. Each movement was deliberate, each adjustment a reassurance that I was still in control, still able to navigate the delicate line between my two selves. It was then that I remembered Emma. She was supposed to be gone for the weekend, but the thought of her arriving unexpectedly added a layer of anxiety that made my chest tighten. My relationship with her had always been built on trust, on mutual understanding, yet the secret I carried threatened to upend everything. I wanted to share this side of myself, to let her see me fully,
but the fear of rejection held me back. What if she laughed? What if she saw me differently? I forced myself to take a deep breath and focus on the present. I was dressed, I was poised, and the apartment was mine alone for now. The thrill of transformation surged again, stronger than before. I stood, feeling the fabric of my skirt sway around my legs, the heels forcing me into a posture that was both alien and intoxicating. I walked slowly toward the bedroom, each step a careful calculation of balance and elegance. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I began to explore further. The soft brush of stockings against my skin sent shivers through me, the delicate lace adding a sensual layer to my transformation. I applied a touch more gloss to my lips, adjusted my hair, and examined my reflection in the mirror. I wasn't just Alex anymore. I was her, the person I had always dreamed of becoming, alive in the here and now. Yet, as thrilling as it was, the tension never fully left me. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant sound from the street outside, made me jump, made my heart race. I imagined Emma walking through that door, or a neighbor glancing through the peephole, and the exhilaration of my secret life collided with the fear of exposure. I leaned back on the bed, letting myself sink into the persona I had created, allowing the excitement and vulnerability to wash over me. The heels, the skirt, the makeup, they weren't just costumes. They were extensions of myself, tools that let me explore a part of my identity that had always been hidden. And yet, the fear lingered, a shadow at the edges of my consciousness, reminding me that this freedom was fragile, fleeting, and utterly intoxicating. Hours passed in a blur of movement and reflection. I practiced walking, adjusting my posture, perfecting the tilt of my head, the arch of my eyebrows. Each gesture, each carefully controlled motion, brought a sense of exhilaration that made my pulse quicken. I was alone, yet the apartment felt alive with possibility, the walls bearing witness to the transformation that was both physical and emotional. By late afternoon, the sun had shifted, casting long shadows across the floor. I perched on the sofa again, slipping my heels off for a moment, feeling the relief of bare feet against the hardwood. Yet, even in this moment of comfort, I couldn't shake the underlying tension. The possibility of discovery, the looming question of what would happen if Emma returned early, or if someone else glimpsed the duality of my existence. And then, almost imperceptibly at first, the air seemed to shift. A sound at the door, a shadow moving across the hallway. It was subtle, but enough to make my heart leap. My secret life, my carefully curated persona, was about to collide with reality in ways I had never imagined. I straightened, brushing imaginary lint from my skirt, and whispered to myself, "No mistakes, not now." The thrill, the fear, and the exhilaration of transformation had reached a crescendo. The weekend that began with quiet anticipation had become a stage for suspense, temptation, and vulnerability. I was ready, or as ready as I could ever be, to face whatever would come next. The quiet hum of the apartment was shattered by the sharp chime of the doorbell. My heart jumped into my throat, every nerve on high alert. I wasn't expecting anyone, not today, not this hour. The sound echoed through the rooms, each ring reverberating like a drumbeat counting down to disaster. I froze, balancing on my heels, feeling the tension coil tight in my stomach. My mind raced through possibilities. Emma? No, she was supposed to be at her parents'. A neighbor again? Or something worse, someone who would expose everything. I crept toward the peephole, each step deliberate, my skirt swaying with every measured movement. Through the peephole, I saw a shadowed figure, tall and imposing, holding a package. Relief and anxiety collided. It was just a delivery man. But what if he lingered? What if he saw me, half-transformed, caught between Alex and her? I drew a shaky breath, trying to steady my trembling hands. "Just leave it by the door," I called, my voice pitched unnaturally high. My reflection in the nearby mirror caught my eye, and I saw her again. My alter ego, poised but vulnerable, perched on the edge. Discovery. The delivery man hesitated, then complied, leaving the package and retreating down the hall. My pulse finally began to slow, but only marginally. The thrill of secrecy surged back, stronger than ever, mixed with a lingering fear. Every sound, the creak of the floor, the distant chatter from the street, felt amplified, each a potential threat. I stepped into the living room, picking up the package, my heels clicking sharply against the hardwood. Inside, I found an envelope, thick and unfamiliar. Sliding it open, my eyes widened. It wasn't a bill, or a letter, or a harmless advertisement.
The contents were intimate, photos, carefully staged, clearly of me in a previous transformation. I hadn't realized anyone had noticed before, hadn't left any trace. A cold wave of fear washed over me.
Someone had been watching. Someone knew.
My pulse raced, my mind spinning with questions and dread.
How long? Who? And why now?
The tension coiled in my chest, suffocating and electric, as I realized the stakes had escalated far beyond anything I had anticipated. I backed away from the package, the heels digging into the floor as I stumbled slightly. My reflection in the mirror mocked me. The poised, feminine figure I had crafted was fragile, balanced precariously on the edge of exposure. I couldn't hide forever, not if someone else was watching, not if my secret life had slipped into someone else's hands. Then, a second sound, so soft I almost missed it, the click of the lock turning. Emma.
She was here. My mind seized in panic.
My body froze, every instinct screaming to flee, to change, to erase this other self before she walked through the door.
But it was too late.
The door opened slowly, and she stepped in, her eyes scanning the room with casual familiarity, until they landed on me.
Time seemed to stop.
I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, the vulnerability of my transformation laid bare. My blouse clung tightly, my skirt fell perfectly around my legs, my makeup highlighted every feature I had meticulously crafted. I was her, fully, and exposed. Emma's gaze narrowed slightly, a mix of curiosity and something else I couldn't identify. My chest tightened. Emma. My voice cracked, a trembling note betraying my inner turmoil. She stepped closer, tilting her head, her expression unreadable. Alex, or you? The words were soft, but they carried a weight that made my knees weak. I swallowed hard, the reality pressing down on me. All the months of careful practice, all the secrecy, all the exhilaration, it had led to this. A single moment where my two selves collided, where desire and fear intersected, and where everything I had built teetered on the edge of unraveling. I wanted to explain, to tell her everything, the thrill, the transformation, the identity that had been hidden in shadows. But words failed me. My fingers twitched, my heels threatening to betray my balance. I felt raw, exposed, more vulnerable than I had ever felt in my own skin. Emma's hand reached out slowly, brushing against mine. The touch was electric, grounding yet disorienting, a tether between familiarity and revelation. You've been hiding this from me, but I see you.
All of you, she whispered.
Her eyes were intense, searching, yet not unkind. I exhaled shakily, feeling a mix of relief and dread. Relief that she wasn't immediately rejecting me, dread that the next moment could shatter everything. I didn't mean to hide. I needed to be me, even if only for a little while. She nodded, her gaze never leaving mine. I think I understand, more than you realize. The words were a balm, yet they carried a suspenseful weight. Acceptance, yes, but tinged with uncertainty.
The sound of another knock at the door jolted me, sharp and insistent. Emma's eyes widened, and I felt my heart lurch.
A neighbor?
Someone who had been following me?
The package, the photos, it all pointed to a growing danger, one that threatened to expose me fully. Emma stepped closer, whispering in my ear, "Whatever happens, we face it together." Her confidence bolstered me, yet the suspense hung thick in the air. I was still on edge, caught between the exhilaration of transformation and the fear of exposure, knowing that the next moment could define everything. I turned toward the door, ready to confront the unknown. The doorknob rattled, and a shadow fell across the hallway. My heels clicked sharply as I moved, balancing the tension of anticipation and fear. I caught my reflection one last time, my dual selves intertwined, poised on the brink of revelation, ready for whatever would come next. The door opened slowly, and the first glimpse of the unknown figure sent my pulse skyrocketing. I had no idea who it was, or what they would see, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. My reality, my carefully curated dual life, had been rewritten forever. The hallway fell silent, except for the rapid beating of my heart. Emma stood beside me, her presence both reassuring and disorienting. The shadow at the door shifted slightly, and I realized I couldn't see the figure clearly. My heels felt heavier with every second, my chest tightening as adrenaline surged.
"Who's there?"
Emma's voice was calm, yet carried an edge of authority that both comforted and terrified me.
No answer. Just the quiet rustle of movement.
I glanced at her, our hands brushing, a subtle, grounding connection. But it did little to ease the knot of panic in my stomach.
My mind raced through every possibility.
Was it a neighbor?
Someone delivering more than packages?
Or worse, someone who had been tracking me all this time, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal my secret? The figure moved forward, and the dim light revealed only a silhouette. I could barely make out features, but the posture seemed deliberate, familiar even.
My breath caught.
The package earlier, the photos, they had to be connected.
My secret life had been exposed to someone.
Emma's fingers tightened around mine.
Stay calm.
Whatever this is, we face it together. Her voice was steady, but I could sense the tension in her body, mirroring my own. I swallowed hard, realizing that nothing in my experience had prepared me for this collision of fear and exhilaration. The door creaked open fully, and a face came into view, someone I recognized, though the recognition only deepened my dread. It was Alex's coworker, someone who had always been a little too curious, a little too observant.
My heart sank. Had they seen me before? Had they known all along?
Evening, the figure said casually, but the tone carried an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. I hope I'm not interrupting. Anything important?
My knees threatened to buckle.
Emma's gaze met mine, a silent question in her eyes. What do we do now?
My mind scrambled.
If I tried to hide, it would look suspicious. If I explained, I'd risk everything being exposed. Every carefully guarded secret, every transformation meticulously practiced in private, it all hung by a thread. I took a shallow breath, stepping forward, my skirt swaying, heels clicking against the hardwood. We weren't expecting anyone, I stammered, feeling the vulnerability of my transformation laid bare. My reflection in the nearby mirror caught my eye, her again, poised yet trembling, a perfect image of everything I had feared being discovered. The coworker's eyes flicked to the mirror, then back to me, a slow smile spreading across their face. I see, you've been busy, they said, holding up the envelope of photos I had received earlier.
My stomach dropped. They had seen everything.
Emma's hand squeezed mine, grounding me, but it did little to quell the surge of panic. I realized, with a mix of fear and exhilaration, that my secret life was no longer mine alone.
The stakes had escalated beyond anything I could control. I took a step back, my mind racing. Could I run? Could I hide?
The answer was no. Too many eyes, too many suspicions. Every movement I made, every word I spoke, would be scrutinized. The dual life I had nurtured for so long was now on the brink of unraveling. The coworker's smile widened, and I felt the weight of judgment, curiosity, and amusement all at once. Quite the transformation, they said, almost teasingly, but there was a note of challenge in their tone. I wonder how far you're willing to go to keep it hidden, or if you even want to. Emma's grip on my hand tightened again. Ignore them, she whispered, though her eyes betrayed concern. We'll figure this out.
But I knew the truth. I couldn't ignore it.
The photos, the package, the unexpected arrival, all pointed to one inescapable reality. My world had been rewritten. My carefully curated dual life, the thrill of transformation, and the secret I had clung to for months were now in someone else's hands. I swallowed hard, the knot in my throat tightening. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation and fear. The coworker tilted their head, observing me like a predator studying prey. Emma's protective presence was comforting, but it also made me acutely aware of my vulnerability, my exposure, and the stakes that had never been higher. Do you want to tell me about this? The coworker asked, their tone softening just slightly, though it didn't erase the tension. Or should I find out on my own? I froze. Every instinct screamed caution. One wrong word, one misstep, and everything I had hidden would be gone. My fingers twitched, my heels threatening to betray me as I balanced on the precipice of revelation. Emma leaned closer, whispering, "Whatever happens, we face it together. But maybe you need to decide what you want first." Her words were both comforting and chilling, a reminder that I had agency even in this moment of peril. I exhaled slowly, realizing that the next decision I made could change everything. Should I come clean? Should I attempt to reclaim control? Or should I retreat into secrecy, hoping it would be enough to survive? The coworker stepped closer, and I felt the tension spike to its maximum. The apartment, once a safe haven for my secret transformations, now felt like a trap, every shadow a potential threat, every reflection in the mirror a reminder of my dual identity. Emma's eyes met mine again, and in that instant, I understood. The choices I made next would define not just this night, but the fragile balance of my entire secret life. The duality of Alex and her, of fear and exhilaration, of desire and shame, hung in the air like a storm waiting to break.
Then, the co-worker's voice cut through the charged silence.
I have a feeling this is just the beginning. And with that, the door clicked shut behind them, leaving me and Emma standing in the quiet apartment, hearts pounding, minds racing, and the future uncertain. Every instinct screamed that nothing would ever be the same again. My secret, my transformation, my identity, it was all hanging by a thread, and the next move could either save me or shatter everything. The mirror reflected her, me, both of us staring back, poised on the edge of a revelation we weren't yet ready to confront. The apartment felt impossibly small, the tension suffocating, and the weight of suspense pressing down like a storm cloud. I swallowed hard, realizing the truth. My reality had been rewritten, and there was no turning back.